Now, people often ask me, why are a lot of buttons repeated on the Transform tab and then repeated again on the Add Column tab? And what they're usually referring to is like the Format button, the Extract button, the Merge Columns, even Statistical, Standard, and Scientific. These are on the Add Column tab in the ribbon and Date and Time, but they're also on the Transform, Date and Time, Statistical, Standard, Format, Extract. Now, the reason for that is, do you want to transform the data and replace it with something else, or do you want to create and add another column that is a transformed version of an earlier column? So it depends on whether you want to lose the earlier column or add a column. Let's have a look at what we can do here. So I'm going to show you various examples of how you use the format, how you use the extract, and how you use statistics and some of these other time and date options. Okay, let's start first of all by going to the sales 2019 to 2021 query. And I want to delete these replace steps. In fact, I want to delete steps replace value 4 through to replace value 1. So I'm just going to take that out, take that out, take that out, take that out. Now, the reason I want to take those out is because those steps were replacing Litware space with Litware and Fabricam space with Fabricam in an earlier video, so that we could get rid of these duplicated versions of Litware and Fabricam. The replace values was how we handled that, but I want to let you know that there is another way, and probably it's a better way. So the brand column here, to get rid of any instances of Litware space or Fabricam space, what we want to do is we actually want to trim. And I'm going to use the transform option because I don't want to add a column that's got the trimmed version of this data. I actually want to transform that column. So the idea here is we go to the format option, and here is trim. And what trim does is it removes any leading or trailing white spaces from every entry in this column. So I'm actually going to click the trim option. And by doing that, now when I go into here, there's only one instance of Fabricam and one instance of Litware. So instead of replacing every instance of Litware space with Litware, we could have just trimmed it. That's really handy. Some of the other options that are in there are being able to clean. And so clean removes any non-printable characters. Sometimes when we bring data through from Excel, there might be carriage returns because it was a wrapped text, or there might be tabs, or particularly in a text file or a Word document, there might be non-printable characters like tab, enter, line feeds that you need to remove. And so that's what clean does. Okay. Now, I would like to use the find and replace to replace every instance of the word limited in this column here called brand. So I am selecting the brand column, I'm going to home, I choose replace values, and I tell it to find space limited. So it's important that you mention the space because the space has to go as well. Find space limited and replace it with nothing. So I just go okay, and that gets rid of all the instances of space limited, especially after Acme, and okay. So we replace those values. Because what I'd like to do now is I'd like to apply a suffix to every single brand in here that says space limited. And so I didn't want to have Acme limited. In that case, we want to transform. We want to go to format and not add a prefix, which is at the beginning, but to add a suffix. And the suffix I want to add to every brand is space limited. And so when I click OK, that suffix has been added to every single brand. So those are a couple of the cool features that the format option gives you. Trim, clean, prefixes and suffixes. You can also do things like case. So for example, I might decide I want all the brands to be in uppercase. And so I just choose uppercase. And so it transforms that column using the format button into uppercase. Or maybe I decided I wanted it all in capitalize each word. And so that's exactly what it's done there. It's capitalized each word. But I'll delete that option and I'll leave it as uppercase. So that's the format button. But let's have a look at some of the other things you can do. I'm going to select the query orders 1997 to 2000. And in particular, I want to go to the column called date. So I've got that selected as well. And I want to not transform this column. So I won't use this transform tab in the ribbon. I want to add a column. So I'm going for this one here. And what I'm wanting to do is add a column that basically extracts the year from the date. So I go into the date column button and I choose year and I choose year again. And when I do so, I now have a new column at the very, very end. So it's the 8th column called year, where it's actually extracted the year from the date. And so now I'm going to go back to my date column and select it. And let's say I actually want to create a new column, and the column is to show the name, not the number, but the name of the month. So I go to add column, date, month. I don't want the month number. I don't want the date, which is the start of that month, or the date that is the end of that month, or I could ask for the number of days in that month. What I actually want is the name of the month. So the first record will say November. And so that has created, if I scroll to the right hand side, it has added a column, add column, there it is there, called month name. And it's automatically picked up that it was November. I would like to now extract another column. So I'm going to click on date. I want to add a column. It's a date column. And what I want to know is the name of the day. So I go to day. And here I can ask for the day, which would say 1, or the day of the week, which is actually a number as well, the day of the year, start of the day, end of the day, but name of the day. So I want to know what day was the 1st of the 11th, 1997. And so it tells me the name of the day was, if I scroll to the end, Saturday, and gives me a day for each of those dates. So I'll scroll back to the beginning again. So those are some of the date functions. Give me the year, give me the month, give me the quarter, give me the week, the week number, or give me the day. What I'd like to look at now is actually some of the other functions we can use. But before I do that, I think I want to move those columns we've just created and put them after the date column. So I'm just going to scroll off to the right here. I'm going to click on year, shift click on day name, and I could drag them, or I could go to home and I could choose to move the columns, actually transform, move to the beginning. So it'll move those 3 columns to the beginning, which puts them in front of date, and then I'll just drag them to the right of date. Just saved me a lot of dragging. And so we can easily move those columns that we calculated, just so you can clearly see that's pulled the year out, that's pulled the month out, and that's pulled the name of the day out. Let's have a look at some of the other date functions, but with regards to employees. So I'm going to go to the employees table here. Now in the employees table, I actually have a birth date column. I'll just scroll across. Which we changed to a date because it was showing as a date time in one of the earlier videos. Now I want to calculate the age of each of these employees. So I want to add a column, not transform, because I want to keep the birth date. I want to add a column, it's a date column, and it's an age. And so this creates a new column that contains the duration between the current time and the values in the birth date column. So I go age, and there it is there. That's the number of days. But I want to see that as years. So now I don't want to add a column, I want to transform this column. So I go to transform, and I say I want to transform the duration into total years. So the duration button's good for putting it into total days, total hours, minutes, seconds, or in this case, total years. And so I can see this person is 73.684931151 years old. I just want to really show that as a whole number. So what we're going to do now is change the data type from decimal number to whole number. And that will just resolve that. So that person is 74 years of age. And I'm just going to move that just by dragging and put it ultimately to the right of the birth date column. And so there is where I want to drop it. So I can see now how old each of my employees are. Now I want to apply that to my Power BI, so I'm just going to go home, close and apply it. And so those changes will be applied to my Power BI. Let me just move that over a little bit. And if I go and look at my employees, open the chevron, and there is the age there in the birth date. Perfect.